life, love, relationships.
Wait, we're gonna give away all our secrets?
Welcome to the Man Perspective
With K-Man
and the Dawn. We're going to talk about part 4, protesting, from a white America versus black America way of protesting. Since we had this police brutality that's been going on for years and years and years, I can remember and I can see that it starts out and has been starting out as a peaceful protest from all the years way back. Remember, we used to have protests, used to be nice, peaceful. Now, what's happening is that these protests have now got more organized. They invite more and more people to come from out of town into the city that's having the issue. And their main goal is not necessarily to join the protest. Their main goal is, you know what? Let's tear this city apart. And that's their sole purpose. And how I remember that, there was another instance way back when, I think it was Michael Brown in Missouri. And I remember seeing on TV, right, where this Caucasian white protester, and I heard him on, he was on the news, and you heard him in the background, and he was saying, "Hey, let's burn down this, Frank's. It was what was it, Frank's chicken and waffle barbecue spot, right?" And one of the guys said, "Hey, no," black guy said, "Hey, no, we eat here. He got good chicken and waffles. He let you burn this down. We ain't got no place to eat." So he's like, "No," but see, it showed that that person wasn't from Missouri. Number one, he had a way different, had a different agenda, which was, I'm gonna come here and torch whatever I can torch and destroy, loot, and do what I've got to do. And it makes it look as though that the people in Missouri were actually doing all the looting when that wasn't the case at all. It was people who was from out of town, flew in there, drove in, or however they arrived, caused havoc, and then they out. They gone. They gone by the morning, Meanwhile, you live in there and look what happened. Now, left to pick up the pieces. Now, do you have to do that as a protest? Absolutely. I mean, you have to shake up the apple cart a little bit. I think that if they didn't make the upset the apple cart, things wouldn't have got done. No one would have gotten charged. You know what I mean? They were still lollygagged about it. Nothing would have got done. But because they had to set things on fire, because they had to get out there and take over the looting, hey, it happens. It happens. And because of it, it makes them say, "Hey, we got to do something."
life, love, relationships, and everything in between. You want to know what the average guy thinks about it? Join us weekly on The Man Perspective with K-Man and the Don.
We're back. You know what I mean? Because if you don't loot and you don't do all of that, the question is, will they do anything? Because, you can have a nice peaceful protest, but does it make that much of a point? You follow what I mean? Like, some people don't get it. Like, why do you got to loot? Well, sometimes if you don't and you just have a peaceful protest, what happens is lies on deaf ears. They're like, okay, he had a nice protest, okay, but we're still not going to charge the officers. Oh, you're not. But if we flip some cars over, you know what I mean? We burn down a couple of police cars. I'm not advocating that, but I'm just saying, if you do those things, look what happened. Look how fast you turn around. Oh, you know what? We better get the DA. We better get somebody on this case. We better, you know what I mean? We better start investigating. We better find out what the hell's going on. And we better start bringing some charges. Because if we don't, your city's going to burn down. And if you sit back and look at what happened in LA with the Rodney King, once again, same instance, Everybody in America saw it on TV, but they said he resisted. I'm sitting there saying, well, where did he resist? His hands is behind his back. They're beating him with the club, but he resisted. And the officers didn't get charged until they had to burn down half of L.A. to say, okay, let's charge them. And but I mean, they got off, which made it even worse. You follow what I'm saying? And then so there's a pattern to all of this. You follow? It's a pattern. You know, if you notice all the instances, and I'm dating back, let's see, I got to go way back, probably what, the 90s, maybe late 90s, 2000, right? You had your Rodney Kings, all these beatings and killings by the police officers, and very seldom have they been charged. The city got inflamed, but they wasn't charged, and that made it even worse. Now it got to the point where, if you notice, they got charged. These officers in the George Floyd case got charged, and look what happened. The protesting went down. The violence went down. You follow what I'm saying? Nobody's flipping cars over because now it's like, okay, justice is finally going to be done. You know, they're actually going to get charged. And I think that's where it sets the stake of, if you're going to protest and you want to have a peaceful protest, and I'm all for that. But at the same time, I think the district attorney, the attorney generals, I think they need to get up off their behind and do something. And very seldom have they done that. As they say, police officers, don't get arrested. Police officers don't go to trial. Police officers, you believe the police officer more than you believe anybody else. Not the white man's perspective,
Not the black man's perspective.
the man's perspective. Welcome to the man's perspective. But look what they had to do to get there. You see, that's the thing, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. Why loot? Why steal? Well, if they didn't do all of that and throw attention to the situation, nothing would have gotten done. And it's shown that nothing's gotten done. I'll give you a perfect example. Way back in the 1960s, when Martin Luther King was protesting, nonviolent protests, remember? What did they do? They sucked the dogs on them. They hit the water holes on them. They beat them with the clubs. They did everything they could possibly do. And the world saw it. Am I right or wrong? The world saw it. And nothing got done. Officers didn't get charged. Nobody went to jail. Nobody had a trial. And nothing changed until later. Laws started changing slowly but surely. You follow what I'm saying? And even then, people were saying, "Hey, these police officers beat you over the head, right?" And some of the white Americans said, "No, that doesn't happen," because they never experienced it. But black Americans said, "Yeah, man, they beat us over the head all the time." But when they actually get it on tape, because technology has changed, now it's a different ball game. Now everybody can see it. Now, and which brings me to part 5, which will be our final part 5 in police brutality, is why the officers are not being trained correctly. All right, we're gonna pay some bills. We'll be right back with the man perspective. Life, love, relationships.
Get yourself some.
It's what you need.
That's right.
The man perspective
With K-Man
and the Don.
My perspective on the protesting and the looting, I agree with you 100%. I mean, you know, protest is a protest, right? It's the voice of the people. It should change things. And it does. Sometimes, though, you need a little more. And sometimes you do. You have to shake up the establishment to really get your point across. And then, yeah, so, you have to do a couple things to really get people to pay attention. My only fear, right, thinking about the whole situation. So what do we? What is tonight? Tonight's like night four, right? Tonight would be night four of protests and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So my only fear, right, is that the first night, okay, so now people are paying attention. The people who should be paying attention,
Hmm.
the prosecutors and the people who have to make the decisions to charge these police officers, right? Night two, now they say, oh shit, we have to do something because the city's going to burn.
Right.
And then they do. But then night three happened, night four well, night four is tonight, so it hasn't happened yet. Um, but my only fear going forward, right, is that the message has been heard now, right?
Hmm.
And my fear is that if it keeps going, it's going the media, because the media doesn't talk about anything but the protesting and the looting.
Right.
And that gives them a door to start dragging their feet on bringing this cop to trial. Because now the focus is on the protesting and the looting and not, hey, when is this cop's trial going to start? So, that's what I see in it. It's
Well, you're right in one aspect, but you're
hmm,
right that you don't want to take the focus off by protesting and making them lose interest in what the real focus is, which is
yeah,
getting them to trial. But if you notice, it wasn't until I think it was today or the third or fourth when they decided to up the charges.
that is true.
You
That is
understand?
true.
Now people, because really people really wanted first degree murder, because really what he did was
And it
first
should
degree
be.
murder, and it should be, but they didn't get that. They started out with third degree murder. After a couple more flipping over the cars and people walking out with some flat screen TVs, okay, maybe we should up it to we should up it to second degree and see if we
Okay.
can get it on that. You follow what I'm saying? But they
Yeah.
was originally saying, "Hey, first degree murder, man. Everybody can clearly see that." Just like
Yeah.
with the Rodney King, everybody can clearly see he's being hit. He's not resisting.
Yeah.
His hands are already tied, which was another thing. Once your hands are tied behind your back and you're laying on your stomach, it's not too many places you can go.
Oh
It's
yeah.
very difficult, as you well know, to try to get up and run. So you're not.
Yeah.
So that's not happening.
Mm-mm.
You're not even going to be able to turn over because try turning over with your hands tied behind your back.
It's
That's a
very
feat,
difficult.
of course. So he didn't have to have his pressure on him. He
No.
didn't even have to
Mm-mm.
touch him. The whole He could have just walked away from him. He's not
Yeah.
going anywhere. That was the
No.
whole thing about it. He wasn't
Yeah.
going anywhere. You follow?
Yeah.
And so clearly why he had his pressure, his knee on him, that was all uncalled for because once your hands are tied behind your back, very seldom anybody gonna run. You're not gonna run
Oh,
anywhere.
yeah.
Try
Yeah.
running with your hands behind your back. You're not gonna make
Mm-mm.
it very far.
No.
You know what I
No.
mean?
Uh-uh.
Especially if you're on the ground, because now you have to
Yeah.
get on the ground, flip yourself over somehow, get up and start running. That's not
Yeah.
happening. So
No.
you could just once you got a person on his stomach and you tie your hands behind your back, that person
Mm.
ain't going anywhere.
Oh yeah, it should have been done. It should have been done
Should
as
have
soon
been
as he
done.
was handcuffed.
Should have been done. And it was sad that, they had the loot. They had to take a couple of flat screens and take some sneakers and take some other
Yeah.
items and things. Like I said, I'm not advocating for that, but
Yeah.
it's all part of the systemic racism that, hey, look at what this officer is doing to ignite that. You follow what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
now when they start protesting, they're saying, hey, bring some charges, do something, arrest these guys, say something. You know what I mean? Do something. And the fact that they're
Yeah.
not going to do anything, that's what gets upsetting to everybody. And that's what makes everybody go out and say, you know what? It's time to loot. It's time to burn this city down. It's time to do whatever you got to do. And that's why that's been done. But then when they started to raise the charges, everything calms down. You see how that
Yeah.
works?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of it was probably planned, and you had a lot of people who were doing serious protesting, for the cause, and you had others that had other agendas. Their main
Yeah.
agenda was to go in there and smash windows. I don't know if you heard, but there was one guy in New York who was actually smashing windows, right? He had a little
Mm.
device or whatever to hit the window so that people could go in there and loot.
Yeah.
He went in there, Luke came out. Come to find out, when they caught him, he was an officer.
Really?
Yeah, he was a police officer, so he was actually helping. You know what I mean? You know, he wasn't there for the cause or anything. He was there
Yeah.
to wreck havoc. You follow?
Yeah.
You know, and then when they caught him, they was like, "Oh man, this guy's an officer. What is he doing, busting windows? What are you doing?" You know what I'm saying? Right? And they caught him. You know, they caught him. So they had another agenda, and that's the problem. That
Yeah.
is the main problem with the protesting. They have another agenda, and once they have another agenda, you can't control that.
Yeah.
You
That
know what
is
I mean?
true.
You can't control that. But listen, we'll be right back, and we're gonna go into part 5, which is training, police training, from a man's perspective. Pay some bills. We'll be right back. You heard our perspective. It's time to hear yours. Get at us at themanperspective@gmail.com.
Or use the hashtag #TheManPerspective.